What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Damn, Ego, back at it again. And Boxing Simon Phoenix is back. And some of you guys are gonna get mad because I'm back on my grind. I'm feeling good. There's a lot going on in boxing, and I want to talk about it all. So, in the words of Simon Phoenix, we're gonna be spending a lot of quality time together. See you later, sweetie, honey, sugar. So, Golden Boy's Oscar De La Hoya, he recently did an interview and he was talking about the Canelo-KHAN card, May 7th. And I'm going to read what he said, and then I'll give you the ego thoughts on this whole situation. Oscar says, I do see the winner from Lemieux-Tapia and David Lemieux facing Canelo down the line. He says, this was obvious by design. Right now, Canelo is the man in boxing. He's the pay-per-view star. I believe that Lemieux-Tapia and David Lemieux are more than capable to showcase their talent and give you guys a great show and possibly be in line to fight Canelo. This is why this fight is so important for both fighters as well. Now, that was said by Golden Boy, former fighter and current promoter Oscar De La Hoya during a conference call. Where do I begin? So the ego thoughts, very simple. I think that Golden Boy, like, it's cool to do interviews and build up the May 7th fight. I have no problem with that. But I think Team Canelo and also Golden Boy, they're not doing any service to their young fighter in Canelo. I'm seeing a lot of things that are making the headlines that they're saying, and it doesn't make the camp and their biggest star look great. I'm seeing things from Team Canelo. His trainer, Reynoso, was saying that, oh, Golovkin has to fight us at 155. Only, we're not coming up to 160, even though we're lineal middleweight champions and we have the belts after beating Miguel Cotto. So that doesn't make Canelo look good. The fact that you had orders from the WBC to mandatorily fight Gennady Golovkin, who was the mandatory challenger, and in line for that, he was in line when Cotto had the belts, and now you inherited all of Cotto's problems by beating him, which is, you knew what you were getting into. Then you offered to work out a deal with the WBC, got an extension. Now, this is what I feared. They said they're going to have a mandatory defense against people not named Canelo and Triple G, meaning they're not going to fight each other in order to further build a Canelo Triple G. But saying stuff like this from De La Hoya, that doesn't give me confidence that Canelo versus Triple G will happen in 2016. So Dante's Boxing Nation, he had a video where he was at the press conference post-fight for Cotto versus Canelo, and Canelo, I was born ready, and Dante asked him, hey, what if Triple G, if he's the mandatory, you're gonna fight him? And Canelo starts flexing like, and flexing like he's ready, and obviously either him or his team doesn't sound like they're ready for a Gennady Golovkin fight, and they're gonna try to string it along and quote-unquote let it marinate. And to make matters worse, their promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, is talking about David Lemieux versus Lemieux-Tapia winner being in line. First of all, let's get some actual facts. As a stylistic fight, Lemieux and Tapia both come to bang. Pause. So that could be a fun fight for the fans, just fun to watch. Is it a meaningful fight? Not so much. Reason being, David Lemieux got destroyed his very first title defense at middleweight. He stepped up in class, fought Gennady Golovkin with all that amateur experience, and he got dominated. He couldn't slip a jab. He couldn't get out of the way of Golovkin's jab. He really couldn't do. I had him losing every single round. I think he did okay in one round, but I don't even think he won the round, right? And then he got knocked down. Then he got stopped, right? Lemieux-Tapia was with Top Rank. He got stopped by James Kirkland, knocked out brutally. Then he bounced back or whatever, and then he fought Michel Soro, who's actually out here where I'm at, training in the Bay, and he got stopped again by an underdog, right? Now he's saying it's because he couldn't make weight at 54 and he's moving up, but he's been on a long year-plus layoff, I believe, and he got stopped in his last fight. So now he's going in there with David Lemieux, which is a tall order for a guy moving up. I mean, that's not necessarily, David Lemieux's a big puncher, even though Golovkin outclassed him. That's because Golovkin's a great fighter and has a ton of experience, even though, well, he has pro level experience too, and definitely amateur experience. So It's not necessarily the first fight that you want to have. You know what I mean? Moving up from 54 off a long layoff and a stoppage loss, moving up to face a puncher like David Lemieux without testing the water in the division. And, you know what I mean? Let's say he gets past him. Tapia versus Canelo. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean for the division? Is Canelo really truly the lineal middleweight champion, beating a guy one fight in, hypothetically, if Tapia gets past David Lemieux? So if Tapia beats David Lemieux, he beat a fighter that Gennady Golovkin just stomped, and David Lemieux was supposed to fight in between that against James De La Rosa, who also had been stopped and on a long layoff, and he failed to make weight. Fight got canceled. They couldn't renegotiate a new weight, and that was that. So hypothetically, of course, if Tapia were to beat David Lemieux, and I don't think he's the favorite, but you just beat a guy whose last fight got stopped by Gennady Golovkin and knocked down. So hypothetically, let's say David Lemieux beats Tapia. Okay, he beat a guy who's on a long layoff, a year plus layoff, who also got stopped by a guy named Michel Soro, and he had never fought at the full 160. Even though he's pretty big, he doesn't have experience at the 160. So again, no doubt about it, I like the two fighters. They could put on a barn burner type of fight based on their styles, but it's meaningless. Despite whoever wins, if it's Tapia or David Lemieux, that doesn't prove that they're the best middleweights by fighting Canelo. You know what I'm saying? And the fight that people want to see without letting it marinate, it doesn't need to marinate. People want to see what Golovkin's made of right now. We don't know if Dominic Wade can answer some of those questions, but we'll see shortly. But I do know if Triple G gets past Dominic Wade, which he's favored to do, people want to see Gennady versus Canelo. You know what I'm saying? So De La Hoya talking about the Lemieux-Tapia winner being in line for Canelo, it really doesn't make sense to me, especially since Canelo's having all these fights at Canelo weight. It's all screwy. It's all messed up. You know what I mean? You got a guy with the middleweight belts holding him hostage at his own weight class. I mean, I agree with De La Hoya. Canelo's a star. I like Canelo. He's a pay-per-view star. He's a rock star, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean you can, you know what I'm saying? Like people always want to compare, oh, but Floyd Mayweather did it. If you look at Floyd Mayweather, he has a blemish-free record. You know what I mean? By the time he was A-side and calling shots, he had great names and great victories. What's Canelo's best victory? Cotto now. What else before that? You know what I mean? Because he's been fighting at Canelo weight his last 4 fights. And he was still doing it. And you know what I mean? He lost to Mayweather. Questionable win over Erislandy Lara that people said could have went either way. You beat Austin Trout. You know what I mean? Who's your best win? I just don't think he has the... I mean, he's the A side over the other guys. You know what I mean? Not named Mayweather or whatever. But I think he still has a lot more to prove career-wise because he's so young. So him making these rules and like, you know what I mean? Just give up the belts. You don't need... A belt doesn't define you. You clearly don't need the money from being like having the notoriety of having the WBC belts. Just drop the belt. Fight at 54. Fight at 55 or whatever you want to do. But it just makes no sense for him to not fight is mandatory. Golovkin's just starving, waiting for the opportunity for a big name. Can't get Billy Joe Saunders in the ring. The other people are on the Heyman side. And then Canelo is on his side, on his same network. And then you have Canelo's promoter talking about, oh yeah, David Lemieux-Tapia winner. And again, see, this is the thing. I'm realistic. David Lemieux versus Canelo, that's a fight that I did want to see. I think stylistically it could be a fun fight. But there's a big difference. There's a lot of fun fights. But I don't care about fun fights when somebody's a champion. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of fights that I would just see for shits and giggles. Like, oh, this is a fun fight. But there's a lot of fun fights out there that are meaningless. You know what I'm saying? Like let's say Ruslan Provodnikov versus Brandon Rios at this point at 147, right? That's a fun fight. I would love to see that. You know what I mean? I would love to see Brandon Rios versus Victor Ortiz at 147. That's a fun fight. But despite whoever wins, does that mean they're atop of the 147-pound stacked division? Whether it's Ruslan, Victor Ortiz, Brandon Rios, any way you match them guys, it's not meaningful in terms of you still got guys like Porter Thurman, you got Kell Brook, Earl Spence Jr. Those guys are at the top. Mayweather, if he comes back, Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley, Amir Khan, kind of, Danny Garcia. So there's a lot of fights that are fun, but they don't really mean much. They don't really shape the division. Like if Ruslan beat Brandon Rios, I'm not gonna say he can beat Pacquiao or he can beat Mayweather or he can beat, you know what I mean, the top guys at the division, Earl Spence Jr., right? And that's kind of what it is. David Lemieux versus Glenn Tapia, it's a fun fight, but it's not really meaningful. I mean, I feel like the winner, I mean, we never even got to see David Lemieux with a title defense, realistically. So we don't know how good he is. He beat guys like Hassan N'Dam and Gabe Rosado, but those guys had already been beat. Hassan N'Dam got stopped, or actually he didn't get stopped, but he got knocked down more times by Peter Quillen, knocked down like 6 times. Gabe Rosado had already lost to Triple G by the time Lemieux fought him, already lost to Quillen also, etc. So I don't really understand. Well, actually I do understand, but I just think it's, I think is happening, I think Golden Boy is trying to preserve their last remaining, the last of the Mohicans. Canelo is the last of the Mohican. Lucas Matisse, I just read an article, he said, I don't even know if I want to come back. I have no desire to fight again. So that's one person with some type of following with Golden Boy, and he got his eye beat in by Victor Postal, and he's saying, I don't even know if I want to come back. I might just retire. So that doesn't sound shaky, or that doesn't sound promising. And then they got, who else? Mauricio Herrera, Jojo Diaz. They got like other people with not big names yet. You know what I mean? Luis King Kong Ortiz, who, what heavyweight is he going to fight on the Golden Boy side, on the HBO side? He already demolished Tony Thompson. So, truth be told, Golden Boy's biggest star is Canelo. And it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think if Canelo were to face Glenn Tapia, David Lemieux, winner. Again, stylistically, not a horrible fight, but it's definitely not meaningful, especially for the person carrying all those straps at middleweight. Gennady Golovkin is the man at middleweight. He's the one that people are fearing or saying is at top of the division. Canelo Triple G is a built-in fight people want to see now. If you don't want to fight the man, why don't you just drop the belts? You know what I mean? Even the other thing that I don't understand about Golden Boy, like, again, I understand, but I don't understand. When I say that, I understand from a marketing business, you want to save your cash cow, but I don't understand in a real, from a boxing fan's perspective, I guess you could say. The 154 division is stacked. You got Vanes Matarosa and Erislandy Lara Part 2 taking place. And I believe on that same card, you have Austin Trout versus Jermall Charlo for a title defense, right? You got Julian Williams, you got Demetrius Andrade. And I think the Vanes Lara 2 and Charlo Trout is going to be on the same card in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, right? If Canelo were to fight the winner of either of those two, whether it's a rematch with Trout or fight Jermall Charlo, excellent fight. That's more meaningful than Glenn Tapia, David Lemieux winner, you know what I'm saying? Even though they're 54 pounders, right? If he were to fight the winner of Vanes Matarosa versus Erislandy Lara, so a Lara rematch or Vanes Matarosa, that's more meaningful, especially if you're fighting at Canelo weight of 155, some mandated weight that you already made up, right? So let me know what you guys think of this move by Canelo. Should he just face Gennady Golovkin? Should he drop the belts? What do you think? He's clearly the A side, but it seems like it's being milked. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.